We trust every day, and we don't even recognize it as trust. We trust the car to take us where we need to go. We trust the food we buy to eat. Just in our everyday living, there is already trust happening unconsciously without us thinking about it for many of us. Every day we place our trust in things that are so fragile. Our jobs, our health, the routine we think will stay the same. The plans, we expect them to remain the same in a sense, and we don't realize how much trust we place in our everyday living until something changes. Sometimes on this journey, when things change, it can feel like we have to change with it. It can shake us a bit or shake us a lot, bring fear, uncertainty, anxiety. The job changes, right? The body changes, the direction changes. What we thought was steady becomes very uncertain, and that's what brings the anxiety and the fear. And it is exhausting placing our trust in things that are always changing. But that is the nature of things. I recognize that is the nature of things. They change. But something in us feels like they should not. The anxiety does not come from what is actually changing. It comes from us thinking what is always changing should not. Ego. It comes from the part of us that says, I put so much work into achieving this. I planned this. I held it together. I need this to stay. And that self panics. That's self, that's where the anxiety arises. That self needs control. That is the self that feels shaken when life does not move in the direction it planned. And I recognize this in myself at one point. And sometimes now when things shift and it changes, I need to remember that the nature of things is change. But when I get shaken by the changing, what that shows me is that whatever the thing is, I've been holding on too tightly. And so you realize that you cannot hold on to anything too tightly because the nature of things is always changing. When we demand what is changing to not change, that is when the weight comes in. That is when it becomes exhausting. If I resist the change, that is when it becomes exhausting. Because I'm trying to make something that is unstable stable. We are trying to control what was never ultimately ours to control. And that is where the suffering arises. And I've been looking at this. There is only one true source that can be trusted. Not because everything else is wrong. And like I said, we trust and we don't even recognize in the moment that we're trusting. So I'm not saying that in this human experience that we're having, I'm not saying that we're not to trust. Even the person that thinks they're not trusting, they are trusting on some level. And in this life, in this experience, we have to trust. It doesn't matter if you don't believe, you don't have to have a religion or a symbol of God. There's still a trust there. So innately, we trust, whether we do it consciously or unconsciously. Like I said, not because it's wrong to trust, but everything is transient. Nothing stays the same. It may come around again, it changes form, but it never stays the same. What is the word? It evolves. Everything around us change. Everything ends. Things may fail us, not always because it wants to, but because it's the nature. It's the nature of things. People change. The way life look can change, but the source of life itself does not change. I refer to this as the one true source. It's not another thing. The one true source is not another thing I feel you grip onto and you said, okay, I'm trusting it. It's not a, it's not another identity to become in that sense. Because even the one that says, I am trusting in source, I am trusting in God, can become the one who wants nothing to change and uses that as a form of control. I know this because I found myself falling into that trap of the ego. So I'm recognizing that trust is not control. Trust is not me trying to make life prove that I am safe. Trust feels like a relaxation in this ever-changing world. It's not something that you need to accomplish. It's not that. It is something that is naturally there when I release control over what is changing. And I'm not saying to give up your job or to leave your relationship or detach from everything, because sometimes even the action to just leave everything alone because you don't trust is coming from a place of control, coming from the self that wants to control it. What I see is if it is changing, allow it to be. I am seeing that true trust it's very still. It's not loud. It doesn't advertise that it is trust. It's being aware when things are changing. It is relaxing when things get rough, when things get really tough, to have this trust, I recognize that I must know the source of my being and the source of everything that is changing, to have this trust that I'm talking about. Because underneath the self that panics is your true nature, just observing the change. I don't need to shift and change with everything that is changing. I just need to be aware